Recording in progress.
Wonderful. Now we will proceed as follows. We have a set of questions which I sent to all of you in your inboxes. And those are the questions that will guide your submission. You will have 10 to 15 minutes to make your submission while answering those questions. I will start obviously with Dr. Sarah Birete. By the way, Sarah Birete is a lawyer, not a medical doctor, but you know that's very good to have one on board. And the specific questions are really to set the scene, Dr. Birete. And these questions, which I sent to her earlier, are really about the sovereignty bill. What is it? What is it? Is it constitutional? What are its limits? What are the proposals in there? What should we know? How can we, participate in this process? And just to be clear, how does it affect us? What are the limitations? Are there exemptions? How will it be enforced? What activities are restricted? Are there penalties? Sarah, over to you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sarah Birete.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ekwalu and the members of the medical fraternity on the call. It's really a pleasure for us in activism world to, when we are interacting with other stakeholders, traditionally not in activism, but I'm specifically glad to appear with Dr. Dembe Drew. I've always interacted with him on social media platforms. I've not shared a platform with him, and I really like your views, Dembe. Sometimes maybe I think it's the rich medical background that informs your views. They are really impactful on society, and I hope you will always find time to engage in matters affecting people like you do. Going back to the bill, and again to thank the voice of the medical fraternity. From the time we knew Dr. Ikwaru as a part of the leaders of doctors, I think the medical fraternity activism has added a lot in the space. We might not register successes in terms of the things we don't want to happen, but the mere fact that citizens have not given up on their country and they keep pushing back and engaging, for me, is very important and fundamental, because success in our context of authoritarianism can only be incremental by everybody doing their bit and keep going. So going to the topic of the sovereignty bill, the only good thing about this law is the title. Protection of sovereignty sounds so fundamental, so patriotic, and one would have assumed that the contents of the bill are seeking to protect our medical health systems, are seeking to protect the data of Ugandans. We have a challenge with the medical data and generally data mining in this digital, under digitalization. One would have assumed that would move, for example, in the direction of Rwanda, which is looking at financial autonomy, including pushing the budget to live within its means. But ours seeks to designate a department for peace and security, a responsible entity for registration and regulation of agents of foreigners, provide for protection of sovereignty of Uganda, and any other related matters. The executive overreach of the bill can be traced in the definitions of who is a foreigner, and then subsequently who is an agent of a foreigner. A foreigner includes, of course, Ugandans living abroad. Our panelist here will we lose Ugandan citizenship, which is very unfortunate. And Uganda will be the first country anywhere in the world to legislate to take away citizenship of its people because they live in a different geographical location than that gives them their identity. The foreigner also includes companies, including medical facilities registered abroad. And if we had international hospitals in Uganda, beyond the name, like having a branch, for example, related to the Nairobi hospital, the private one, or a chain of hospitals, then those would fit in the category also of a foreigner. It goes ahead to say that people who work in these international agencies, I know Uganda's medical personnel, works in the UN, works in terms of, expertise on pandemics, expertise on malaria, and so much expertise, especially in the specialty areas. So these who go to work with these agencies and receive payment because the bill seeks to heavily track funding, then they might need to be licensed as agents of foreigners. We have a big medical community in South Africa and Kenya. Whenever I attempt to visit Kenyan medical facilities, I always find the Ugandan experts there. And so the citizenship of these people is at stake in terms of definition of who is a foreigner. Then subsequently, who is an agent of a foreigner? Anybody who works for a foreigner, promoting interest, controlling interests, or being funded by a foreigner has to register as an agent of a foreigner. So for the medical practice, you find that the doctors working here might not have a very big problem in that regard, but the categories that receive funding from abroad, the medical students on scholarships from abroad, I don't know how you share the practice of it. There is another lawyer who will explain the practice of it. But where you find that you're sharing expertise, like we saw in COVID, where you need to use protocols from other countries, and I know they will be exempted, but ideally they are affected by this bill, where you are engaged in rapid cross-border cooperation, international technical assistance, it's caught up in this bill. And then, of course, the medical research, and fellowships, conference sponsorships, all those are affected in who is an agent, the definition, who is an agent and who is a foreigner. So you find that the people working on scholarships, on foreign grants, procurement of medicine is likely to be affected because most of it comes from abroad. I don't know how much medicine is produced here and whether it's sufficient. The vaccines, equipment, you have to go through the bureaucracy if you are bringing in equipment. And some of the equipment, especially for the rural countryside, is donations. The medical equipment is received in terms of donations, but clearing those donations will have to face the bureaucratic burden of this bill. So the question that we ask as lawyers is, what is the lacuna in the existing legal framework? What does this law seek to cure? The sponsors of the bill have mentioned 3 areas. One is, of course, foreign funding and hiding under the excuse of national security. The second problem, they say, is the social media platforms. or we can say online platforms. And the third excuse is that civil society is not properly regulated. So one would ask, if we have a challenge with foreign financial flows in this country, what is the specific lacuna in the anti-money laundering legal regime that establishes the Financial Intelligence Authority, that created the Anti-Terrorism Act, that has the Banking and Institutions, Financial Institutions Act, and Bank of Uganda Act? We have 4 laws concentrating on regulation of financial flows, with the banks as supervised agencies, with the Financial Intelligence Authority, we empowered to act and freeze accounts and block bad money, but also under the supervision of Bank of Uganda. So what problem exists that is warranting this law that is failing to check the financial funding? Briefly on social media platforms, we have the Uganda Communications Act. We have the Computer Misuse Act. It's only the amendment that was nullified. We have the Interception of Communications Act. We have the ministry in charge of information, as well as other laws. So what problem exists? The law does not mention in specific terms. In terms of NGOs, we have the NGO Act of 2016, amended in 2024. We have the NGO policy and regulations. NGOs cannot receive money, and I want to give this for purposes of demonstrating that, in our view, we don't see a problem. NGOs are the most regulated entity. You cannot sign a funding agreement and receive money without sending your details to banks, notifying them the agreement you have signed, notifying them the purpose of the agreement in terms of proposed activities and the work plan. Unless you send the 3 documents, banks cannot clear our money. They will hold it. The only 2 layers that this law adds to the NGOs is the funding limit capped at 400 million Uganda shillings, and the need for an additional layer of reporting called the Peace and Security Department. So when you go away from that, having known that applicability of the law might come your way, especially since you interact with the foreign protocols and funds, we need to look at the legal regime. The applicable clauses clearly state that any person who acts as an agent of a foreigner and elaborates in a non-exhaustive list triggering activities, engaging in political activities, soliciting and collecting or disbursing contributions, loans, money, and other things in the interest of a foreigner, or representing a foreigner's interests before the government agents or official, or influencing development policy, and then you fall under the regime of punishments that is being proposed. Whereas the medical facility might not have to register. I don't know how you will use foreign protocols without registration if the law does not exempt health. The law further goes ahead to state the activities provided for under the fixed schedule of the Constitution, where government policy is concentrated. The 6th schedule of the Constitution arises from the chapter on local government and was established based on Article 189 of the Constitution to provide for services that the central government is responsible for. And this is the second last schedule in our Constitution, if you have copies of the Constitution. This schedule includes health as a sector, which is a specialty of government. And the law is seeking now to say, if you are doing anything that concerns provision of health services or health policy, then you need additional permission of a minister to engage in the health sector. So the law directly impacts on your practice. And the penalties, which range from 2 billion for an individual, 4 billion for a legal entity or an establishment, and imprisonment of 20 years, might interact with you people in the course of your work. The question that also raises could be, if you are providing services to a foreigner, a foreign national, do you need permission? Because you will be paid by this foreign national, you have to take care of their medical interests, including privacy and arrest. Do you need protection of this law? That is something that the people looking at the impact of this law specifically for the medical sector need to question. Who will provide medical care for people licensed as agents of foreigners in Uganda? Are they affected? Or if you are treating, like lawyers are affected if you are representing a Kenyan, they will need to be licensed as a foreign agent if you're representing a Kenyan national in Ugandan courts. So then what happens if you are treating a Kenyan national in Ugandan hospitals? Do you need the same licensing as you do your professional work? That could come in as a shocker. The state is proposing that if you receive more than $100,000, basically, without express permission of a minister, the rest of the funding is forfeited. How will this work in terms of medical partnerships, where there is foreign funding coming in maybe for research or other special areas that you are partnering about? Will money meant for hospitals be forfeited to the state? Then the liability, which is both civil and criminal, meaning that if you are a director in a medical facility and this medical facility receives money, on top of a medical facility being fined 4 billion, the director can face imprisonment of up to 20 years. We need also to look at increased bureaucracy on the side of hospitals, clinics, and NGOs which are health or church-led. The Catholic Church has many hospitals, including Zambia. I think it has the biggest chunk of hospitals and schools in general as a religious sector. So you find that if a Catholic Church needs licensing for the much resources they receive from the Catholic establishment, then the medical personnel working in Zambia or any other Catholic hospital, they will be faced by this law because they will need to be licensed as agents of a foreigner. The Catholic Church projects are going to be declared foreign under this law if it's passed in its current form. So all employees whom the law captures as agents of a foreigner, so you have medical personnel in all these facilities that are either NGO aided or religious aided, and funding comes from abroad or a contribution of resources. They will be affected, that they will need registration every 2 years. They will lose their civic and political rights to participate in governance because agents of a foreigner are prohibited from participating in all activities as stipulated under the 6th schedule of the Constitution. And then you need to check where your membership is working to make sure that they are aware of these facilities. Of course, people engaged in research, like I had mentioned, and then who want to contribute to health policy, they will need express permission of the minister as I conclude. And then the law does not provide for timelines within which the minister can respond. So you might find that delays or denials in approval could halt critical hospital operations community outreach, medical research, or public health programs, especially those that depend on international support. So, Dr. Ekwaro, if you could allow me use this as my opening remarks, and then wait to come in and interject as the conversation goes on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Birete, for that comprehensive opening remarks and really highlighting the areas that are likely to affect doctors in this law and also other medical practitioners, really, since doctors do not work alone and access to help a little bit more than doctors. Members, one announcement is that I think Dr. Sechanzi has posted a link for where you can register. Please register for the CPD. I see we are full house. We are 300 already. I don't know whether Dr. Sechanzi, you can expand this CPD to capture more than 300 because the interest generated is certainly high. Dr. Birete, you have laid the ground very, very well, highlighting the risks, highlighting the loopholes, highlighting the duplication of the law since other existing laws come in. Now, Dr. Drew Dembe, you have heard what Sarah has mentioned. You have been a very important voice in this issue. From the perspective of someone in the diaspora, how do you view this law affecting how you practice, for instance, or how you interact with home? I read your piece. You talked about inheritance, you talked about investment. Can you take it on from there? Thank you. Hello, Dr. Dembe, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Boko. I approach this from a point of view that I am an individual of Ugandan origin who has had a very long relationship with Uganda. I've spent more than, I think right now, half of my life has been outside Uganda, but I try to maintain contact. But we have various relationships with Uganda. One of those is economic. And there have been changes over the last few years. Dr. Birete mentioned, for example, the anti-money laundering bill. I opened a bank account in Standard & Chartered Bank in 1999. It was a US dollar account. It allowed me to maintain some financial relationships and transactions in Uganda. Round about 2017, 2018, a bank account that had operated for well over 15 years suddenly started getting frozen. Every few months, they would freeze it. Every few months, you'd contact the bank. Every few months, the bank would say some orders from government. You need to identify yourself. You need to notarize this. You need to fill in these forms. And it just became a game. COVID came around. At the end of COVID, 2023, I came to Uganda. I walked to the bank. I produced my passport. I closed that bank account. These are examples of regulation or government creep causing problems with simple daily interactions. And this is the real problem with this bill. It is broad, it has overreach, it has potential to reach into every relationship, and it's very likely going to complicate people's lives. And as a physician who interacts with other physicians in Uganda, I can see where some of these problems are going to be. As a clinician, you interact with patients, you interact with colleagues across borders. You're involved in national and international research, which is cross-border. You provide routine care, including to patients from overseas and locally. You're involved in business, and that business may include business dealings with donors and business deals with foreign investors, including colleagues overseas who invest in Ugandan hospitals. who are now designated as foreigners because we're all foreigners. I mean, I came to the acceptance years ago that Uganda treats me as a foreigner. How does that come about? Until the dual citizenship came along, you could not take out the citizenship of another country and maintain a Ugandan citizenship. I live in Australia. In Australia, if you applied for Australian citizenship, all you had to do was to tick a box saying that you want to have the option of dual citizenship. And that was all. And if your country of origin had dual citizenship, in Australia, you just ticked a box when you're applying for citizenship and you're allowed to have dual citizenship. Uganda was more complicated. They did not have dual citizenship. If you chose to take out the citizenship of another country, then you became a foreigner. And with that, there are lots of rights that you lose. As an example, for example, if you own Milo land, from that day on, while legally there is no law that dispossesses you, you cannot transact that land. You cannot transfer it, for example. And this has become increasingly difficult. You need a national ID now for most transactions to open a bank account, to transfer land. So that means that even if you sold it, you cannot actually effect a transfer if you don't have a national ID, which you can have if you don't have dual citizenship. And then along comes this bill that is complicated. Half of my colleagues did global health or public health or HIV care. Half of my colleagues are involved in HIV services or NGOs. Some of them run multi-million-dollar medical programs that are donor funded or foreign funded. I can see how this bill can complicate their lives. Anybody who is involved in medical research, writes grants, receives money from overseas, runs clinical care programs, their life is going to become more complicated because in addition to your daily clinical work, your standard scientific reporting duties, you now have security reporting duties. You have to maintain records. You're going to have to deal with government. You have to get permission from a minister for what, strictly speaking, are not very large amounts of money because 400 million in some of these projects is not a lot of money. So life is going to become more and more difficult. So the way I see it, it's going to have an impact on research and clinical trials. If you have a physician scientist running a clinical trial funded by an international body, under the bill, they are an agent of a foreigner. They cannot legally operate without first registering with the Department of Peace. They have to obtain a certificate from the Minister of Internal Affairs. Operating without it is a criminal offense punishable up to 10 years and a fine of 1 billion and more. So this will create massive bureaucratic hurdles that will delay or kill vital medical research. Routine care and diaspora remittances. I know of clinics in Kampala that receive money from people overseas who are providing care for their families. Their parents are registered with the clinic. The children send money. If you're receiving money from overseas, you're potentially going to be receiving, have to declare the source, and this basically makes your life more complicated. Banks are going to de-risk. The banking associations have already put out a statement. This is going to complicate their lives. But the way banks operate is that if there is risk, they just de-risk and disengage. But this is going to delay routine medical payments, routine grant payments, and it's potentially going to cause massive civil penalties. Hospitals, donors, foreign medical teams, there is potential to have problems there. Hospitals routinely collaborate with foreign sources. Importers receiving medical goods on credit from abroad may find themselves in breach of some of these rules. Any form of financial support, loan or in-kind donation like medical equipment may require extra reporting. And you have to obtain prior written approval for some of these things. Point of care, critical care, HIV services, these are critical care services that would routinely receive most of their money. Up to 60 to 70% of their funding for some of these programs is from overseas. So I can see how this can become potentially really complicated. There is the question of gagging medical advocacy. Within these rules, criticizing government, criticizing a government program potentially lays you open to the charge of economic sabotage, which comes with severe penalties. Now, this encroaches on civil space. And this is Dr. Birete's area, and the lawyers will talk more about it. But I can see simple, basic rights, your right to criticize government programs, to have an opinion on government programs, which is essentially civic activity, has been criminalized. So at the end of the day, I can see why this would be complicated. One could say, why do you care? You don't even live here. I can't walk away from Uganda. I interact regularly with Uganda. My parents are in Uganda. My in-laws are in Uganda. My siblings are in Uganda. I have financial relationships. I pay lots of school fees. So it's ongoing, active, regular relationship with Uganda. And so others say it's just a bill. There are lots of bills. It's not really going to interfere with your life. These things, bad laws, once they're passed, they have impact to affect you. I can give an example. For example, my father is 85 years old. He's not a very well man. A few years ago, he had a stroke. But at the time, he was still active. He still ran his own business. And old people, they don't want to delegate. I will not mention in names here, but everybody knows they don't want to step down until someday something happens. And in his case, one day he had a stroke. And when he had the stroke, he never went back to the office. Nobody had access to his bank accounts. No one had access to his records. And one of the things that he had, apart from the usual problems or whatever, taxes, there was NSSF. So his NSSF, whatever payments for his employees were in arrears. So a couple of years ago, I come over to Uganda. I decided I really need to sort this out. I need to check where his tax obligations and NSSF obligations are. So I get one of my siblings to get in touch with NSSF to find out how much the arrears were. The arrears were 22 million. The interest on the arrears was 17 million. The penalties on that was 160 million. The claim was 200 million for 22 million. Now, my father was a very strict man all his life. He had never been in trouble. He was, and then here he is over 80. He's a sick man. He suddenly has a government agency claiming that they need 200 million from him. We take these things lightly until somebody in URA or somebody in some government department comes up with some stupid charge that really messes up your life. And this is why these things need to be taken seriously, discussed before they become law, which kind of raises the question, why are they pushing this bill so quickly? What problem exactly are they trying to solve? Whose sovereignty are they protecting? I mean, we've been independent 60 years and we haven't been protecting sovereignty, and suddenly it has to be protected yesterday without having a discussion of the law. I am crossing over into the territory of the lawyers. My relationship with the law is I'm not a lawyer. I pay lawyers. I am not a politician. I don't create bills, but politicians are in power because of people, and the laws that they make should reflect the rights and the interests of the people. And I'm not quite sure how this law reflects the rights and the interests of the people. I will give the microphone back to you at this point. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you very much. Our two guest speakers, Dr. Sarah Birete, who gave us the legal perspective and related it to our medical practice, what is at risk, what is at stake. And so far, none is talking about a real benefit of this law, which I was hoping to hear, that perhaps there is a benefit to the common person, perhaps there is a benefit to protect the common Ugandan from some, imaginary enemy out there. Yet, personally, my experience is that ever since I started working, apart from internship, all my salary has been paid by these foreign people, which is an embarrassment in itself. The studies I did, the advanced studies, were paid by the colonialists, and they have sponsored us in this kind of thing. So those opportunities will not be available. And many of you have had this experience. There will be an opportunity to ask questions after our third speaker. But also, this is to remind you to register, especially medical doctors. This gives you at least 2 CPD points. Please register. Dr. Sechanzi has been good enough to give us a link to register. Is the president of the Medical Association on? Just he may say 1 or 2 before we go to Ms. Josephine Namaganda. You can prepare your notes. Is Dr. or Professor Simwe available? President?
Yes, I'm available. Thank you very much, Dr.
Please,
Buku.
Yes, please a remark in about 3 minutes if you can. But if you also have views, you can go ahead.
No, it will be just in 1 minute, just to thank you for organizing this discussion. For me, it's an eye-opener. I had no idea about this bill. Although I am a little involved in the clinic, but I was following, and I will form my opinion slowly, but looks a little interesting, for lack of a better word. So thank you, Dr. Sarah and Dr. Drew. We probably will call you back to throw more light on this subject, and I hope and pray that our members have understood this a bit more. Ultimately, our legal advisor is going to advise us a little bit more about this, and then we'll form an opinion and make our position known. Thank you very much. All the best for the remaining part of this engagement.
Thank you very much, Professor Simwe. Professor Simwe was our chief of ethics and professionalism when I was president. And I remember him saying that a medical doctor knows what he's saying, because the government was saying, we don't know what we are saying. But he replied and said, look, a medical doctor can open your abdomen, go, make you sleep, operate the kidney, put it back, and you go back to normal. You continue with your activities. And I remember him for that statement. I'm very proud of him being president. Josephine, we have been waiting for you. The mic is yours. Ms. Namaganda, are you there? Council?
Hello.
Yes,
Can
please.
you hear me?
Go ahead with that. Yes.
Good evening,
It is
doctors
Jane.
and all listeners. I said my name is Council Jane Namaganda Chibiro. Thank you so much to my predecessors who have submitted very well. Maybe to a few things which for me I will see that this law, what does it mean to Uganda Medical Association? What does it mean to doctors also? When you look at all the other Ugandans, when you look at this law, it is contradicting the constitution, because any law which contradicts the constitution is supposed to be null and void. The constitution clearly indicates who is a citizen, who is a foreigner. However, when we look at this new law, which is coming in twofold, it is already contradicting several laws as when we look at them. So it takes away all the other laws' powers. So from the start, we see there is a contradiction where we have agents. Agents could be named, but that one losing their citizenship to be called foreigners because they are practicing from outside Uganda, or they are staying outside Uganda, even which period is not known. So we look at this law has a lot of effect to our doctors who are practicing now, or health workers who are practicing out of the country. So also it is contradicting our laws, our different laws. When you look at UMDPC Act, which is specifically providing for doctors, which is giving them powers even to go outside, study, as the council data was submitting, doctor, that when we look at all these different laws are being contradicted by one single law. So which needs to be recalled back, and the bill. So when we look at this bill, has several areas where it is going to be hitting most our clients who are health workers. We are seeing very many hospitals which get a lot of money, even to start or even expand or even get equipment from outside. This law is already telling everyone that you cannot expand your medical treatment, your medical specialty to go and beyond what the government has prescribed. I know when the law came into force, maybe government is trying to look at the Ubuntu, we own everything, it should be for us, and we have all those other things which are working for us than the foreigners. But it was made so general that it is affecting almost everyone when you look at it. So any practitioner who is practicing in Uganda and in any way receives funds, the way doctors are looking out for donors to come and do exchange of medicine in Uganda, where we have seen foreigners are coming here, it cannot happen now. The minister has to first authorize all that. So it is going to limit the medical practice to what we have and not have the innovation we are getting from outside the country. When you look at the law itself, talking about any agent, everyone can be liable now. Because if you're any person, if you're in charge of a facility, if you are both private and government, if you are any person and you have friends, you've seen where people are getting friends and people come maybe in communities to develop them and build facilities, you cannot do that with this new law. So this new law, you have to go through the government where very many are going to be called agents. Anyone can be an agent. Anyone can be, if you're even employed and as my predecessors have been discussing, everyone is affected. So doctors, what should they think about when they look at this law? It is taking away the innovations in medicine. Doctors have to wait to what the government prescribes, and that is what they're supposed to be taking. Because already, if one is going to practice medicine in anything, I've seen where surgeons are brought into the country, you cannot, because they will come with foreign funds. There are foreigners working, as council was submitting. Everyone is going to be arrested, and we are seeing the high penalty which has been put in place. So very many doctors will be arrested if you're dealing in any way with a foreigner. A foreigner doesn't even have to be, as we used to think, people who are white or those who are not blacks. This time the foreigner even is your brother who is out of the country, and we want to see you develop your practice of medicine. If he's sending his money, his savings to you, already has become a foreigner, and he has become immediately the agent. So this is going to hinder so much growth of medicine in the country, and it's not only going to affect the country, but the beneficiaries who are the patients. So this law is limiting, and I believe we need to raise our voices to see that there is the bill recalled, because in its current form, it is affecting everyone. So when you look at this bill, the way it is in this current form, it talks about how much money is received. We know how we have seen very many banks, even out of the country, giving financial support to our different hospitals, both in the district local government and the central government, or even private facilities which have come forth to supplement the government, where we have been seeing very many people, mothers who are dying in Molago, mothers who are dying in those different facilities where there is no care, and many have resorted to go to the private facilities. It's affecting the private facilities, because when you look at the definition of any person, it includes organization. Most of our facilities are registered as NGO. Even if it's registered as a company by shares, it's being affected. Even when you have not registered associations are also affected. Almost everybody is affected. So all the doctors, you can't say, no, for me, I'm not the head. Even when you are in the lower position, this bill makes you get affected, and you can also be arrested for any violation of the same. So our clients are affected. Also, when we look at the patients we are going to see higher deaths, higher morbidities and mortalities in the country, because the health workers who have been providing this, we have seen so many NGOs which have been putting a lot of money. When we look at TAS has been doing it, we have been looking where it's getting also funds, supplementing the government efforts. Also, we are looking at paper. When we look at how it happened when last year, when Trump recalled so much of the funding and how many people have been affected, the HIV and AIDS team, which support can't even be stopped. But even when you stop their drugs, if they are on the way, waiting the minister's approval, it's going to affect them most. So our population, the doctors serve, are going to be affected most, but doctors themselves who are practicing, men are going to lose their jobs because men have been working in some of these places. We know how the government has been failing even to recruit people, to recruit doctors in the different health facilities, and how much we have the stockouts of health workers. The health workers are actually not stock out. We have the government has not employed enough health workers, enough specialists. And many, even when they're employed, they are being given little amount of money. Let's look at what is happening currently. The senior officers, the medical interns, where many are not even sometimes taken by government. But even when they took many, they deprive them of their salaries, they deprive them of their allowances, their little pay. This affects the doctors, where men have been opting out to go to private facilities, to go to NGO world, the civil society, which are affected, where they've been getting employment. We are going to look at this bill where many are going to lose employment because the foreigners are going to withdraw the funds and take them to other countries where we have favorable laws, where we have favorable terms and policies. So when we have such policies which are non-favorable for the foreigners, for the donors, for the development partners, it's going to affect our doctors mainly. And then we are going to have so many to be on the streets because men have been employed by those other organizations as consultants, as different people where they've been getting money. With this law being in place, it's going to affect many. So for the doctors who are practicing in Uganda, you have to now be very cautious about whatever you're doing, who you're dealing with, because you never know, you may be dealing with a person who is also dealing with an agent or a foreigner, and the law will take all of you as that. So what should be amended in the bill? I think the whole bill, it is good that it was coming up to bring the Ubuntu back home, where we are going to own our own things, where we are going to develop our own things. But with what is currently available for government, where it cannot even provide all the necessities we need as a country, and we have had the progressive realization of the same for many years. I believe this bill should be fought because it has affected almost everyone. So if government had a reason to create the sovereignty of the country, we have already been sovereign. Because when you look at the Constitution, Article 5 talks about that Uganda is a sovereign country with several laws, as my predecessor, Council, Dr. Beret had talked about it. Uganda is already a sovereign country. Uganda already has the different laws which can protect it. So maybe government has a reason for them to bring the law which is going to curtail. But this law has curtailed people even who provide the services to people, especially the doctors, because you cannot be alive even when you have a lot of money when you're not alive. The doctors are going to be scared even to operate, even to contact others outside Uganda. Even when they go outside Uganda, they cannot send money home to educate their own children, meaning doctors are not going even to go out and educate. So for me, if the bill in its current form needs to be recalled so that it is aligned to the interest of the nation, as it is in Article 8A of the Constitution.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Mr. Jane Maganda, for both of you. I would urge that you also help us build a repertoire to capture these notes from the speakers and the question and answer session, so that we are informed when we are making the position statement from the National Executive Committee and perhaps with input from the National Governing Council. I am informed that Senior Counsel Philip Karugaba is on board. Are you there?
Yes, Doctor. Good evening, everyone. Delighted to be here.
Yes, I will invite you shortly, but just to highlight that our three guests here are Dr. Sarah Bihepe, the CEO and founder of Center for Constitutional Governance, and of course, a human rights advocate. She also is an international observer of electoral processes in the African region, I believe. Dr. Drew Dembe, who is a specialist physician and oncologist practicing in Australia, but is a Ugandan, and over half of his life has been in Uganda. They have given us their experiences, which I picked, particularly, looking at things like the amount of money that is limited, above which $100,000, above which the $5,000, 101,000 will be taken. The $1,000 will be taken by government if you have not followed their so-called due process. We've also had a personal experience of how laws can be very unfavorable if they are not well thought out. Dr. Dembe's father, unfortunately fell ill with a chronic illness, stroke, and could no longer operate. And the process of the delay of payment of NSSF of 22 million ended up being 200 million. You can imagine how insane that kind of bill when a person is making those estimations without taking into consideration mitigating factors such as, this delay took place. We also had how this law can affect you from Ms. Jane Namaganda as a practitioner. And, you can actually be arrested. Although for us, we have seen doctors being arrested for mothers dying, and we opposed that one. We said, there are better ways of handling doctors. Arresting a doctor is counterproductive. There's an opportunity cost. The doctor needs to be in the community as we investigate. There are many other issues which came about from Dr. Sarah Bihepe and Dr. Drew Dembe, which I'm sure we have taken note. Please remember, there are 2 CPD points here. Register on that link. And I have no doubt that even if you're in the UK, the UNA will give you CPD points. And if it is accepted in the UK, well and good, I've seen that question there. Philip, Senior Counsel, you have been in this business of understanding the laws. You have been at the helm of giving opinion. What is your view on the politics of this law? What is it trying to settle really? Because the way I see it, the donors have been our partners. Nobody has been complaining. I can tell you, without the PEPFAR funds, the Presidential Emergency Fund for AIDS Relief, which gave me my second and third jobs, a number of people would have died from HIV. Their HIV medicines were so expensive that George Bush, with the help of Ugandans, such as Professor Peter Mugenyi, who started the Joint Clinical Research Center, brought about this development, which has saved lives. Sometimes the Americans really, they help us. Sometimes they don't do beautiful things, but sometimes they help. What is your view on the politics of this bill and how it can affect the health sector?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ekwaru Oboku. You are really setting me up. First of all, you're addressing me as Senior Counsel, which I am not. Then you're inviting me to speak as a lawyer. And the question is, what are the politics of this bill? That's a tough one, sir. Very tough. But let me first thank the Medical Association for putting together this event and getting the experts that they've got to speak on it. I'm very pleased to see my learned friends briefing the medical fraternity. I'm very pleased to see the very large numbers in attendance to this event, and it's good to see this level of civic interest in the medical profession. I have not interacted much, so I'm really pleased to make this engagement. As to what the government is trying to achieve, you have shown that money comes in the country for good. Yes, there's money that comes, foreign money that comes and helps us, changes our trajectories in health, any health, education, basic welfare, that's true. But it's also true that money can be in the country for wrong purposes. Okay? That's also true. But then the question is, how do you identify it and how do you deal with it? Is this the best way to deal with it, purportedly in the names of sovereignty? I think Dr. Birete made the point that there are other laws, okay? There are other laws that exist on the books, anti-money laundering, terrorism financing, the NGO bill that can address misuse of foreign money. Okay, so in a nutshell, the way this bill has been brought is unnecessary. It's got a very, very extensive reach. The definitions are vague and cast the net far, far too wide and will do more harm than good. It's unconstitutional on many, many levels, while it claims to protect sovereignty. While it claims to protect sovereignty, it seeks to muzzle the very exercise of the sovereignty by the citizens through their freedom of speech, okay? Commenting on government programs, criticizing government programs, assisting in the development of government programs. It also infringes on their rights under Article 38 to participate in their own governance, directly or through civic organizations. So we really hope that the citizens' consciousness, the sovereign, because we are the sovereign. It's the people in Article 1. It's the people who are sovereign. Fe bananyinensi obuyinza bwaffe. The power belongs to the people. So I'm hoping that people's power will be exercised, restrain these trustees of ours who are in parliament, who are in the executive, and tell them this is not how we wish to be governed. I thank you very much, Dr. Kwaru, and members listening. Thank you.
Oh, you have made your submission, Council. Apologies for calling you Senior Council. I just assumed that with the duration of your experience, you automatically.
The president has to award it. The president has to award the title. Yes, it's a special rank.
The Law Society or the president of the guy. Anyway, that is another matter. So,
of the Republic.
Of the Republic. Yeah, we
Yes.
have the radical new back. So now I have only one question or two, which I got here, and I tried to, I don't know whether I understood it. Of course, there's a simple one, which says, when is the next reading? I think in terms of the next reading, I think the bill was read today. The second and third reading, I think this is what I followed from the leader of opposition. I saw he posted this morning that the second and third reading should have happened. So it's really being accelerated. It's a rapid pass. But what is interesting is that in the new vision of today, if you open the new vision of today, page 10, the lawyer's body says the bill is a threat to the country's democracy. So this is something that is still raging there. The debate is going on. And the most interesting commentary is page 16, where the Attorney General, Council Kirio Atuamuka, is saying that regulating foreign influence without stifling growth is the aim. And he has a full page talking about this, of course, in very good English. Back to you, Sarah. You had not completed your task, you know, you made opening remarks, and you had highlighted that, you know, the, the substance of this proposed law, the punishments, you know, were there any exemptions in this law that perhaps would make it workable? Is there anything good in this law? Over to you, sir. That maybe doctors can say, oh, you know, this law may be protecting us against maybe, you know, a foreign influence of jobs. Maybe, I don't know, when we were going to the Total oil exploration, very many times Ugandan doctors could not get jobs, you know, because of, you know, their preference for foreign trained doctors, particularly because they say we don't have advanced life support training and so on and so forth. Over to you, sir. Sir, are you still there? Okay, maybe she dropped off. Maybe Sarah dropped off.
No,
If I may
I'm
say,
here.
okay.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead then. Did you hear my question, or I was rambling too much?
No, I heard. I was just fidgeting with yeah, just a minute, let me. So when you look at the specifically this bill, under the if you do an overview of the medical profession in line with the bill, you find that the proposed bill introduced, first of all, I had mentioned the issue of broad definitions, but also the key objectives threaten the healthcare financing and service delivery, like I had mentioned, and the other colleagues have mentioned. So, like Drew stated, when you face delays in procurement of medical supplies, you get suspension of donor-funded clinics and outreach programs, then the disruption of life-saving services in HIV, AIDS, TB, malaria, maternal health control, immunization, ecology, and emergency care. So you find that the bill will complicate, you know, the provision of healthcare services. Then the criminalization of legitimate medical practice. The bill exposes medical professionals and institutions to criminal liability for the administration of or procedure non-compliance. This also complicates the way you do your work in your profession. The chilling effect on the medical and research innovation, I had mentioned that, but the bill, the broad definition of foreign agent, captures routine research partnerships, institutional review processes, and discourages participation in global clinical trials and disease surveillance networks. So you find that you are going to be confined to Uganda, and the means you can use nationally and venturing outside will be full of bureaucracy risks, but also compliance burdens. If you are to generate evidence-based health policy, health is prohibited. You will need express permission of the Minister of Internal Affairs to engage in that evidence-based health policy because of the sixth schedule of the Constitution. When you look at emergency and epidemic responses, public health emergencies require rapid cross-border cooperation. They also require immediate funding disbursements and fundraising and swift deployment of international expertise. How are you going to engage with this bureaucratic law in place? You find that we will have challenges responding with health emergencies as a country, as compared to the risk, the legacy we had set that Uganda can quickly respond and contain health emergencies or pandemic breakouts, violation of constitution and professional freedoms. Of course, if you risk that and go and get licensed as an agent of a foreigner, you have to forget your civil and political rights. Because on the other hand, the law is scared of citizens with a bit of economic means when they are participating in governance. Then, of course, you will surrender your freedom as a profession, even when you are advocating for rights, like, for example, the rights of intern doctors, advocating for better payment. That is public policy. The regime could say that the medical fraternity has become disruptive. I remember when the president was threatening to bring teachers and doctors from Cuba because of industrial action. So this could be part of the things they are looking for, to silence the medical fraternity as you advocate for improvement in your profession. When you look at the sector of public interest considerations, health security is national security. And when it's weakened by such a law, it undermines economic productivity and social stability of a country. So as you plan to push back, you need to make it clear that restricting medical collaborations and funding isolates Uganda from the global scientific progress. And then you highlight the dangers in your memorandum as a fraternity. So I don't know, Ekwaru, what else I need to speak about. I think
Thank you so much. I've exhausted the key issues. We've got the message. The $100,000 is a small grant, typically given to PhD people. The big grants can even go to as high as 100 million over 5 years, as Dr. Drew Dembe talked about. We also saw the risk of affecting epidemic response. I work in the space of epidemic response. I was a consultant charged with advocating for domestic funding. We increased domestic funding to epidemic response because every time an epidemic started, we never had the money because of the slow process of government releasing money. So I was hired by an NGO, Global Health Advocacy Incubator, to work with, a number of people to advocate. And I was working with a lawyer, Kananura, to go ahead and so it may affect also those who are involved in advocacy and you are paid by an NGO, for instance, or international NGO. We've had the risk of increased mortality if the health funding is affected. There are personal risks we've had. You are going out of this country for the betterment of your career, like Dr. Drew Dembe, for also perhaps for the betterment of helping your people back home. And there might be risks with investing back home. As a doctor, we at one time talked about labor exports when the government said, we cannot hire, you are too many. We said, okay, let's start a labor export company. I understand the past executive started a UMA labor export company. And I suppose at some point in the near future, you will be hiring doctors to send abroad wherever the economy demands. We've also heard that advocating for interns can be something interesting or taking industrial action. This law may be misused or abused. I recall one time me and the Secretary General Mukuzi went to the office of the Minister of Security. We were summoned, and the intelligence report was saying that doctors had received money from foreigners to organize the strike. Of course, it was fabricated and good enough. I mean, that specific Minister of Security with the was quite land. He was actually land, and he doubted. He said doctors are not that sophisticated to engage in this. What they need is bread on the table, things to do, and that's the president. We are the positive engagement. Now the floor is open. I would like you to put up your hands so that we can take questions. Take questions from you. Can you please put up your hand, and then the chance you can open the mic for the individuals who would like to respond, to ask questions. I can see Wilberforce Kabweru. Can you go ahead with your question? Your hand is up. Wilberforce Kabweru, who is our Vice President. Go ahead. Dr. Wilberforce Kabweru, any other person?
Thank you very much, our President, Dr. Boku. And I just want to say, can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Boku and all the previous speakers. Kabweru Wilberforce is my name. I'm a senior consultant surgeon and bioethicist. And I have typed a number of things that actually, at an individual level, let me start as a clinician. It is going to be very difficult for Dr. Kabweru to treat doctors who are incarcerated, like a KB, because I will be easily tagged to be an agent, but also patients who are across borders. And that is going to put us at risk. But even when I'm thought to be treating an opposition person, this law strips you your rights as a Ugandan. By the way, that's what people should know, whether a doctor or not. And we are going to wake up from our sleep and activate the MPs, because the MPs are given some dollars and they pass the law, whether they are awake or in coma. And that is going business very difficult. Now, for some of the patients that we treat and want to get services abroad, it's going to be tricky. Okay, but also even our patients here who are here, like who are organ donors, it is going to be difficult. But even samples in diagnostics, if you are transferring samples for better diagnostic purposes, it's going to be very difficult. And the doctors are going to be at the small line of being labeled agent. Now, most people don't understand the word agent. Agent means you're working as a representative of your principle, and someone who can easily change this principle at any time. And the government, that's what is trying to say, that give me the remote and I can easily change whoever is the principal. So what does it mean? That even our training is going to be at jeopardy, our service delivery at jeopardy, and worse, our research, which answers a lot of questions. Public health emergencies here. We have been, when Ebola strikes, we run WHO and then other countries for expertise, for resources, but also for calming down the outbreaks. So those are going to be jeopardized. So doctors, we need to come out and write and fill each gap and make sure that this doesn't. But already this law is also not in good faith, because when you look at the objective why it is being put across, it looks as if it is brought for opposition. That's what I would say. And they will need to come out and justify to us with the need, because article number, I think, talks about the sovereign. We are sovereign. We have that inherent thing. We are Ugandans. Like me, my parents were all born here. So I have a right to be here. Whether I'm in America, I have to be deported. But now this means that if you're out of the country and it expires, being brought home is also hard. You may end up being an internally displaced person in your country and you have nothing to say. So let us have a look at it at length and then advise. Now, if we want to innovations in health, it is going to be difficult because there's a lot of sharing information, sharing specimen, sharing expertise, collaborations, and these are going to come to a standstill. You know, earlier before the elections began, people were behind the bars because they were saying you are getting money for other purposes. But if you look at it, that money was even going to schools, going to health sector, going to agriculture, going where? So let us not allow government for this time. Let us all wake up. And I know Dr. Birete, you have done your part, but you need to go to parliamentarians and teach them from basics and how to take no to this bad bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cabuero, who is, by the way, a senior consultant in government. Most people in government, civil servants, really they find it hard to comment. But we were all inspired by Dr. Margaret Mungerera, our past president, who was a senior consultant psychiatrist in Mulago and the clinical director in Mulago, who told us, we must speak up, otherwise they will treat us badly as doctors. And they used to say at least they are treating the lawyers better. But I don't like the way they have treated the Dr. Sarah, and the others who are really advocating for the well-being of Ugandans. It should be welcome. We have Professor David. Professor David, you have your question, please.
Yes, I'm Professor David Sejinja from American University here in New York. And I think for me, the charter in Washington, D.C. is the volunteer organizations like American Doctors Without Borders, a little bit being hinged. We process a lot of volunteer applications and internships coming to Uganda on sabbatical medical leaves, on helping out medical emergencies. And if this bill passes, really, that is going to affect with the doctor-to-doctor relationship, specializations. Some of our education institutions in America do joint grant funding with Ugandan medical institutions. How is that going to be collaborated going forward? And so for me, I look at this bill as selfishness, greed, and also politically motivated for our local people who are dying. All of you know that Trump suspended the UN funding for medical programs. Now with this bill, you are turning fuel on fire. And so a need for sensitization, a need for mobilizations, for all those that are looking into what is in it for me versus what is the general need and prosperity and triumph for the people in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kenjinja, for joining in all the way from America. This is the morning hours there. America is a great place. They have done great things to build the human capital in Uganda through foreign funding, by the way. All those Professor Sewanka who have fought HIV AIDS since 1984. It was the Raka Health Sciences Program, Professor David Serwada, all of whom were awarded these big awards. Professor Roy Mugerwa, the cancer treatment unit here in Uganda is funded by American money, Fred Hatch. Really, we cannot avoid foreign funding. And I have worked largely in foreign funded institutions. I trained interviews, but I managed to pass interviews in the foreign funded institutions. And one thing I recall was parallel funding. Foreign funded institutions prefer parallel funding. They prefer to work with NGOs or the non-state sector, principally because of efficiency gains. $1 seems to stretch a bit longer. Value when the non-state sector is followed, not necessarily because the money is lost in the state streams. Money sometimes is also lost in the non-state sector, but things happen faster and they can be traced in the non-state sector. I can tell you, whenever we have an annual health sector performance report, the private sector, non-state sector is invited. There is a representative of the donor community, and they contribute at least 40% of our budget funding. But in certain areas like TB treatment, it's nearly 100%. HIV treatment, I can bet it's over 70%. Malaria, the reason why malaria drugs can now be bought at 5,000 shillings, even sometimes 3,000, because of the subsidies put in place by international governments. And sometimes these are bilateral agreements with the states, but also with the other parts in the state sector. We are at 6:32. We are left with 28 minutes. I do not see any further questions coming in. If there are questions, please raise your hand so that we can select you to to give your question. There is no question. So moving forward, I will start with you, Dr. Drew Dembe. What should we do as a medical fraternity? What should we do in your view, in as far as this bill is concerned, Dr. Drew?
Thank you very much, Dr. Boku. Before we talk about what we can do, I wish to make the point that you are a criminal. You brought together people to discuss and criticize a government program. And you brought together criminals like Dr. Bireti, who, with her work in civic space, criticizes government programs, which makes her a public enemy #1. You brought Philip Karugaba, who single-handedly fought the anti-tobacco war and reduced government revenue from cigarette smoking. I'm pretty sure that I've been guilty of saying one or two things that people would consider to be criminal offenses. And by extension, you've made everybody here an accomplice. But moving forward, just to consolidate on the things we've discussed, this bill represents overreach. I'm not a fan of big government. I don't like government. I prefer that government is invisible, so efficient that I don't have to see it. When I have government in my face and government everywhere in my life, that is not a good quality of life. This is a kind of bill where the government will be in your face, and it will be in your bedroom, and it will be everywhere in your life, and it has potential to become a nuisance. And I find it difficult to understand why we need this bill. As a country that is dependent on foreign funding, particularly with regards to healthcare programs, where up to 70% of programs in many healthcare, in parts of healthcare are foreign funded, it becomes difficult to understand why we need this kind of bill. As a profession that works on collaboration, including cross-border collaborations, again, this is a bill that is going to become problematic. Medical education and research cannot thrive without cross-border collaborations. Institutional funding operations are very dependent on foreign funding. Charitable missions and donations depend on foreign funding. Even patient care is impacted. HIV is the perfect example in Uganda, where many of the major healthcare programs providing HIV care for the last 20 or 30 years have been foreign funded. Investment in the economy. Uganda claims they are open for investment. All the diaspora forums I've attended, there are people from government, they're asking us to come and invest in Uganda. But my personal experience is that doing simple, basic things are becoming increasingly difficult to the point where I seriously need to consider divesting and disengaging from the Ugandan economy. And this is the kind of bill that makes it easy to make that kind of decision. Cross-border payments, anybody who has anything that involves cross-border payments is potentially going to be running into problems. So at the end of the day, what does need to be done? The president of the Uganda Medical Association is online, and I would hope that this is something that UMA would take up and make a statement on this bill. I think all professional organizations that are impacted should be putting out statements about the potential impact of this bill. Actionable states, formal petitioning of MPs, although the reality in Uganda is that a lot of the MPs seem to operate independent. Once they are voted into power, they don't seem to listen to the people that voted them into power very much. But there are formal ways of petitioning MPs, and people just need to fill their pigeonholes with their opinions. Participation in public consultations like this one. Sometimes people don't think how this bill will potentially impact them. There's very good potential for everybody to be impacted by this. Consultations to demand the unconditional withdrawal of this bill. This is not a bill that just requires some surgery. This is a faulty bill that needs to be deleted before it becomes a problem. That's all from me, Dr. Boko.
Thank you very much, President UMA and Council Uganda. You have homework here. Before I invite Dr. Sarah Birete, let me really thank Dr. Brudembe for that contribution to give us a way forward in the summary and in a succinct way. We didn't talk about medical tourism, how this might affect it, but I think we can just engage you and others. We need to brainstorm on that. Because we are also a site for medical tourism, but we also export our patients. Medical tourism. Permit me read a few comments here. And you know, Sarah, you may respond to this for those that are listening. Obicho Francis, doctor, asks, at what stage is this bill and what can the common Ugandan do to help prevent it getting through? Sarah, this is yours. At what stage? Dr. Birete, are you there?
Yeah. 2000.
Yeah. Dr. Birete, are you there? Council Fimer, please mute. Are you there?
Dr. Kwara, I'm on the call.
Okay, thank you very much. There is a question here. I just want you to take about some of these questions which may be directed to you. At what stage is this bill and what can the common Ugandan do to help prevent it from going through? Let me look at other questions. There is a comment from Dr. Rupe Bryan. UK, Canada, and Australia need doctors. This is a comment, I believe. And the Ugandan doctor can pass the exam and start practicing abroad. Abroad, better remuneration and working conditions. Thank you so much, Dr. Arube. Dr. Atwine Oscar, many of my fellow doctors have served as study doctors in various studies. This bill directly antagonizes research activities within the country. Oh, Uganda, may God uphold. Yes, please, I've been a study doctor. We have developed new drugs in Uganda here, and I know many of you are study doctors. We were funded 100% by Bristol Myers Squibb, I remember, and the drug development industry is no nonsense. Not even $1 million is enough. I think the whole bill can even come to $1 billion. So Uganda being a site can even receive $30 million. So we can even lose the opportunity to develop drugs like this latest drug, lepacanavir, has been developed here in Uganda. The injectable 1/6-monthly treatment was at McKay University, John Hopkins University Joint AIDS Program. ITEL, I am very much humbled. ITEL A6610, I don't know why you are coming, ITEL. I'm very much humbled by the insightful submissions. Thank you so much to you all panelists. I know for a fact that we will be digging out, we'll be digging our own grave by passing this bill in its current form. I can see how the other prevailing laws are able to achieve what this bill is there, convinced it is unworthy. Upon conviction, this is Brian saying, Kumba doctor, upon conviction, we are all liable to pay 200,000 currency points or 20 years in the prison after Dr. Drew Dembe said we are all criminals. And this is just really a function of it. You know, we will be liable to, the punishments are so harsh. So over to you, Sarah, to tell us the way forward. What can we do as a fraternity of medical doctors?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ekwaru and my fellow panelists. The bill is at committee stage, and the clerk of parliament sent a call waiting for public views, a process which ends on Friday. So the medical fraternity is in time for submit a memorandum before the joint committee of legal and the internal affairs in parliament, and your views can be discussed. I hope that there will be time for public hearings, but sometimes our parliament is unpredictable and it does not follow its own rules or procedure. So, but your views should be on record. And how do you get your views on record? You organize your memorandum. I will share a basic draft. The issues I've been speaking about, I was trying to generate a draft, but it's basic. I will forward it to Ekwaru, and then you generate specific issues that you want feed in, so that you quickly submit to the committee. But also you use the same to address a press conference, either at Parliament or at your offices. And the public should know your views. You should also send, as an association, commission bulk SMSs, so that every MP receives an SMS that the medical profession is requesting, urging them not to pass this bill. Those SMSs should go out, but also submit a specific petition out of your memorandum to the Speaker in a petition form, urging her to hear the concerns, make sure the concerns of the medical profession are not heard, are heard, and this bill is not passed into law. It needs like a referendum, by the way. This bill needs a referendum if it is to pass, because every sector of society is opposed to this bill, and it does not serve any purpose except enabling the already authoritarian regime. And my apologies to those of you who could be thinking otherwise, but this seeks to control every economic activity in Uganda and determine who gets rich and who gets poorer. And the implementation, if passed, will be selective, aiming at those that the regime wants to silence, but also the professions will suffer broader restrictions, as you have seen. So the petition should urge the Speaker that this law should not be passed if it is to be enacted, since it's about sovereignty to go to a referendum. So the draft I will share with Dr. Kwaro, it should also help you after you have inputted the specific concerns, because you have the details as a profession. Then out of it, you also generate the petition to the Speaker where the wording will change just in the introduction, but your recommendations should remain the same. The beauty with the petition to the Speaker is that usually it is read in the House. So even when you miss an opportunity to appear in the committee because of the unpredictability of this Parliament, your petition will be read at the time of the second and third reading, which will be next week. Dr. Ekwaro, that's what I can say. But these actions, in our view, will be sufficient. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarah Birete. I'm very glad you did not recommend industrial action, because doctors have now become experts in industrial action. When they are very annoyed now, they want to just go for industrial action. But I'm glad you have given us that advice of a petition, of a position paper to present in the committee level, and also to call to engage the public through the media, press conference, perhaps in the Parliament, or perhaps in our offices, which in itself, by the way, constitutes a criminal activity according to this law. Is that so, Sarah, by the way? Or are we over-interpreting? If this law came into force,
has not passed. The bill has not yet passed.
Yes, I'm saying hypothetically, if this bill passes as it is, if we sat down in the press conference and made noise about it, would that constitute a bribe according to this bill?
We shall reject, Dr. Kwaro. We are here. We shall reject. We are the sovereign.
Okay, we are sovereign. We are sovereign. So this leaves us with one speaker, concluding remarks, and that's none other than Jane, our lawyer. Unless there's any other burning question, I'm not seeing any hand up. Jane Namaganda, would you give us how can we, Zoom user? Who is Zoom user? There's one here called Zoom user. Can you go ahead, Zoom user?
Then we
That is Isaac
have Ken
Semakade.
Namagana come on board.
Apologies. Apologies. That's Isaac Semakade, the president, Uganda Law Society.
Radical New Bar.
Yes.
You are welcome.
Should
And
Namaganda
nice
go
to hear
first,
from
maybe?
Okay. Council Namaganda, ladies first.
Council Semakad, you can submit. You can go forth and submit.
No, I prefer to
No,
hear
you go
your
ahead.
submission first. Thank you.
You want to hear my submission first? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. For me, as we are concluding, when you look at this bill in its current form, it is affecting every Ugandan. Sometimes we think the law is created for other people. It's going to affect everyone because you could be an agent, as we have been discussing. When you look at this bill, it violates the different human rights enshrined in Chapter 4 of the Constitution. So it takes away all people's rights, the right to health. It is going to take it away from all people. And even when you're practicing it, your practice is limited by the bill. So when we look at the bill, it's going to take away even international, we have Uganda ratified the different international obligations. Even when they're spelled out here in this bill, they are taking those rights away because if there are no policies which people can comment about, if policies are not going to come from people who are also the government, who is you and me and any other person, the doctors we have on call and other people, then the bill is limiting and it's only left out to a few people. So it's going to be the feedback from the minister. Everything is left to the minister, to the different line ministries, where it's going to affect. We have seen corruption in the country. Let's look at our districts. For any person to get anything with the money they're talking about, they're going to start cutting. Before you want this, let me first pass this. The donor is giving you $1 million and somewhere the money is going to go. We've seen this in Uganda. It's not going to change. It's going to be worse. Yet when we look at our donors, they want accountability 100%. I have seen different donors, even when they're to give transport, they look at the government giving 20,000. So if you're going to use this bill, it's going to take away employment for all our different doctors, different people, the health workers who are employed both in government and also in other civil society. The bill in its current form, it is one would say it is sabotaging what we have been building on for years.
Thank you.
The different laws, I mean, I was still saying something. So when we look at what any meeting, someone was asking, such a meeting like this one, we shall not be holding press conferences because you might be talking about policies which government is not aligned to. So this is going to affect any meeting, any activity. So whatever you are going to be sorting out, even at your different local levels, in your own organization, if you're even with other donors, almost everyone is losing their jobs. All people are losing to say anything. As I said, it's breaching that very fundamental constitutional rights. You will not be able to participate. You'll not be able to act. You'll not be able even to speak about things because the government has put everything in this bill to take away everyone's rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Namaganda. You will be charged with the putting down our position paper. So as soon as Dr. Sarah Birete gives me that piece, I will send it to you and the National Executive. The President of UMA or Vice President will give closing remarks after the President of the Radical New Bar. Incidentally, by the way, I have started law school after winning the election from behind. I was number 4, so I have a bit of free time. I said, you know what? Maybe I try to understand the laws better and also try to become a land friend for purposes of inquiry here and not to practice. So, Radical New Bar President, you are welcome to make your quick remarks in 5 minutes or 6. Then the last 3 minutes will be by the President UMA or Vice President to give us closing remarks. Thank you very much to all of you for being a great panelists and of course audience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Ekwaro Buko. And commendations from the Radical New Bar for your radical new decision to join the legal profession on top of your many accolades and achievements. You'll make a wonderful Attorney General in the future. First and foremost, I want to use this opportunity to congratulate the new leadership of the Uganda Medical Association led by Surgeon Francis, Mr. Dr. Simwe. I have worked with him for nearly a decade now. When there was a revolution within the medical profession to get radical new leadership under Dr. Ekwaro and others that invited me to support that activity. I enjoyed myself, I enjoyed my time around doctors and their political participation. Secondly, I want to deliver a message from Justice Ugandan Tende, which he gave us at the last September, the 17th of September, on the occasion of celebrating the life and times of former president of the Ugandan Society, former Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Sam Kaleganjuba, and former MP Sangati area, whatever it is called now. The judge delivering the memorial lecture for Sam Kaleganjuba had some message for our professions. I want to read it verbatim here. It was on the role of remodeling our constitutional framework. He gave some background, which I don't want to bore you with, but after giving the background, he went straight to the following passage that you need to hear. He says, the 1995 Constitution has been amended several times with the result that the balance and distribution of power, the checks and balances worked into the system have in reality been emasculated. You of course know what has happened. The staggering size of the legislature and the consequent cost must be evaluated in terms of need, cost and benefit given the population and size of this country. The balkanization of the country into over 130 districts from 33 districts 45 years ago ought to be interrogated, and the determination of the cost and benefit, and determination if the cost and benefit benefit that line of travel. The staggering cost of political administration of the country vis-a-vis an ever-declining value and quality of essential public services must be examined. That one requires repetition. The staggering cost of political administration of the country vis-a-vis an ever-declining value and quality of essential public services, top of the list, health services, must be examined. Usurpation of jurisdiction to try civilians, often political elements, opposed to the holders of the reins of power by military courts. There may be need to look at how judges are appointed to provide a more robust detachment from political elements. The history of constitution making and or constitutional reviews is that these are often undertaken by those nominated, by those holding executive power and who benefit from the result. Perhaps the time has come for a civil society-led review of our constitution. Perhaps the time has come for a civil society review of the current constitutional apparatus upon which our society is run, and determination is made whether it is fit for purpose. The radical Nuba managing the ULS has an opportunity to play a lead role in this, together with other civil society groups from different areas of human endeavor and professional organizations like the Uganda Medical Association and the societies that bring together members of each profession: architects, engineers, surveyors, accountants, auditors, social scientists, farmers associations, traders, and business associations, and many others. It is possible that when this is done, it may be ignored for some time, but it would not be forever. It would establish a standard upon which, or mirror through which, the status quo would be examined, judged. Sorry, someone was disturbing me. It would establish a establish a standard upon which, or a mirror through which, the status quo would be examined, judged, and act as a powerful tool in demonstrating to our people how we can move forward, managing our affairs for the benefit of the majority rather than the benefit of a few holding the reins of authority. Conclusion: if the Ugandan society can lead this effort, the lifetime work of Sam Kaleganjuba, a two-time president of the Ugandan Society for a free democratic Uganda where the rule of law prevails and the people of this nation can attain their potential, will not have been in vain. Betrayal will have been overcome. I thank you for listening to me. Justice of the Court of Appeal, Constitutional Court, Frederick Ugandan Tende. I hope I was clear in delivering that message. Doctor, that message was
Yes,
for
you
you.
are clear.
That
Yes.
message was for you. That message was for us. The judge is saying we have to cease the tradition of neutrality as the professional associations. So following this message for us in December of last year, we issued an executive order number 6 of 2025 to announce that the Ugandan Society has abandoned the tradition of political neutrality and is very much in the political arena. That is the place where professional associations can be. Our own individuals have already beat us to it. There is no law that prevents us as institutions, as associations, to also get into the ring and have political opinions, people. The longer you delay, you've seen what has happened. You have discussed this bill extensively and it leaves you no medical practice, no health practice, no health education of any integrity. You will be answerable to intelligence officers that will be manipulating you incessantly. Already you're suffering under cabals that limit your potential. Just imagine this new blanket power that is proposed to be imposed on you. I have stopped. Thank you very much. Dr. Buku, I hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Isaac Semakade, for your very brief, succinct, and meaningful views. Members, you have had the right to participate is enshrined in the Constitution. Actually, if you read the preamble of the Constitution, as a doctor, of course, you're first a citizen, participate. Vice President or President UMA. Dr. Simu, are you there? Or Dr. Kabweru? Okay, maybe they dropped off. Is
No,
Dr.
we are both
Irumba?
available. Doctor, we are on.
Okay, so one of
Dr.
you
Frank
can
is on.
Frank Asime, can you give us closing remarks, please? And the way forward, perhaps. In brief.
Let me close. I think is off. Is off. I want first of all thank the discussants and our own Dr. Book for moderating, our own Dr. Dre in Australia, Dr. Virete, it was great, and other colleagues from the different specialties and associations, the ULS, we are always proud, and what she has already told us that she's going to be giving us a draft, which we shall be working with our lawyer, Dr. Counsel Jane Chibira, and I want to assure you that we are not going to sit, and we are going to work around the clock with the entire UMA fraternity colleagues, so that we put our foot onto this bill to be felt. We cannot fold our hands when everything is going. And I think someone posted early that we are in the animal farm, and the lion is picking one of us, taking, and we are silent. But at the end of the day, they are now touching us. So if we keep quiet, our future is gone. And if we make sure the health that we are fighting for is left to nobody, even ourselves, the doctors, we shall actually be at the highest risk, because we shall be left in a very difficult time. And we hope that during the transition also we contribute through these bills. So we want to thank you, and we are humbled and honored to work with you all, the partners in this country, to make sure that we deliver a better Uganda out of whatever we are going through. My president usually says the shenanigans and shambolic way of doing things should be abandoned, and we do what is the best. And I will say we are going to do our best. For God and my country, serve it with honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaweru. We are all responsible for our own convenience or suffering. We are already suffering. We can't take long for more suffering. This is Dr. Kutesa Ronald. Thank you very much. The meeting was worth every minute. East or West, home is best. Our leaders want to change that. It is time the rightful president takes over. We all know who actually won. Dr. Mugenyi Deborah, Dr. Marajimi, the bill is not okay. It curtails all efforts at globalization and while undermining and infringing on our God-given inalienable rights. I pray for sobriety among different actors, especially legislators, as they debate the bill. Next time, let's have someone from the side of government. Next time, let's have someone from the side of government. I lost that. Yes, to balance the discussion, like for this case, to tell us exactly what the government is aiming at. I told you, page 11, New Vision, there is a full write-up by the very good friend of Dr. Semakade called Dr. Kiriowa Kiwanuka. The Attorney General has written there. I read all the 1,000 plus words, and I really failed to make sense out of the good English. Dr. Semakade raises a very important point. Many count on the UMA to prop up society, a huge responsibility, though. That is Dr. Philbert Nyeko, the director of Kabale Regional Referral Hospital. Attorney Oscar, thank you, Mr. Isaac. It's been a nice message. Dr. Sarah Birete, Dr. Drew Dembe, Miss Jane Namaganda, and our very own President Asimwe. Thank you very much, Semakade Isaac, Philip Karugaba, and our Vice President Kaweru for attending and making some points here. Kudos to UMA, kudos to you, Uganda Law Society, and to all of you as Ugandans. Please remember, it is your civic duty guaranteed by the Constitution to participate in your democratic governance. Call your MP tonight, send him an SMS. Sarah Binete, if you have their contacts, they are 500 only. I'm sure UMA would like to communicate our position on the controversial issues, or even to really withdraw this bill altogether. God bless you. Continue to be Ugandans who are upright. Continue to be Ugandans who love to see Uganda we want. God bless you. Have a good evening. We'll meet next time.